Hello, welcome back to my channel, Inflightmuzik. My name is Ian, and today I want to go over what I consider as possibly one of the best 808 plugins you could get your hands on, SubLab. And if you're looking for more FL Studio and music production tips and tricks, be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so that you are notified every time I make a new video. So right now SubLab is on sale. I'll leave a link down below for you guys to purchase it. It's only 40 bucks right now. I went over this in my Black Friday video where I covered a list of the best plugins that I think beginners should be looking at in terms of the Black Friday deals that are out and about right now. I'll also leave a link down below for that video. But I just wanted to go into deeper detail with SubLab, mainly because I just released a drum kit called the Inflightmuzik 2020 Drum Pack. I'll also leave a link to that in the description below. But all of the 808 sounds that are in that pack, I sound designed myself within SubLab. And here's a quick preview of some of the 808s that are in my Inflightmuzik 2020 Drum Pack that I made myself inside of SubLab. And of course, you could go into the filter section. I like using the SVF low pass. And that's if you want a cleaner sounding 808. Now, I've mentioned before that one of the problems that I have with 808 plugins or just bass plugins in general, one thing that they tend to get wrong is the glide function or the legato function. A lot of times manufacturers will confuse the idea of glide with portamento and legato. And typically with urban producers, we're looking for legato versus portamento. And the difference is with portamento, it will glide every note, even if your notes aren't overlapping. So you lose a lot of control over your glide function. So that's the first thing that I want to point out with this plugin. So right here in the bottom left, it has this legato function that you can turn on. And even with this turned on, you still have the option to not glide the notes, which is what I like about legato over portamento. So overall, just a lot more control. So let's dramatically change this to a half bar. You have this curve that you can adjust to change how the glide occurs over time. And because of that alone, you could really tell that this is really geared towards your modern producer that is into 808s. Let's take a look at this mixer. I'm going to turn down the sampler and I'm going to turn down the X sub, and we're just going to listen to the synth by itself. So a lot of times when people are making their own 808s, they'll start out with a synth and they'll use sine waves, square waves, triangle waves, stuff like that. So if you go into this wave section, you could see that you have the option of sine, triangle, saw, and square waves. What they'll do, they'll change the pitch, the beginning pitch of the 808, and make it really high, and then it'll drop down. So that's what you're hearing with that high pitch sound at the beginning. But you could go into the pitch and edit this, especially if you're going to layer it with a kick sample or any sample that already has a nice attack. So I like it right about 38% right here for this particular wave shape. And of course you have control over the volume shaping, so we can make this hit a little harder just by bringing the attack all the way down. And of course you have control over the sustain and release. So we can make this 808 last longer by increasing the release. Or you can make it stopped abruptly. 1.3 seconds, that sounds fine. And typically I leave the sustain all the way up so that the 808 retains power throughout the entire signal. And sometimes I'll go in and use the filter to create the attack as well. And then you have fine-tuned controls over the filter right here. And the cool thing about SubLab, it comes with a bunch of samples for you already, but you could go in and add your own kicks and 808s to layer with your synth. So in the mixer, we're going to turn up this sampler and we'll just listen to how this affects the 808. And you can see in the sampler it has loop points, which will make the 808 sustain as long as you're holding on to the note. And what's also great about the sampler section, it has its own filter as well. So if you wanted to combine the synth and the sampler with the same low pass filter, you can also go in here and do high cuts and low cuts so that you just get the attack or just get the body of the sample that you're looking for. And then sometimes you'll hear those 808s that have that delayed attack in it. So you'll hear the 808 sub come in and then the attack will be delayed. That's what this delay section here is for. So right now we could hear everything just up front and forward. But if we add this little delay to the sample, it has that nice little attack that is just slightly offset. And that's really popular. It's been popular for the past couple years in trap music. And then here, of course, you can tune your sample as well. And then this X sub section is really unique. It's basically just adding in extra harmonics. So depending on the sound you make with your synth and sampler, you may or may not need these extra harmonics. And then you could adjust these around to see which harmonics you actually want. And if you wanted to, you could really use this as the body by increasing the lows here. So yeah, if you actually level them just right, you just get slightly different tones and frequencies that stand out. So you'll notice that some of these presets in here really take advantage of X sub. Some of the presets are using it, some of them are not. But speaking of the presets, there's a section of the presets called Hits DNA Volume 1. I believe they have 3 different volumes now. They basically recreated the same 808s that you find in these hit songs like Bank Account, Floating, God's Plan, Gucci Gang, Lucid Dreams, so on and so forth. So there's some really cool 808s in here. So let's click on Ric Flair Drip and take a listen. But even the other presets and the other categories, they all sound really, really great. They were designed really, really well. But it's so easy to go in here and really manipulate these to make them your own. We could just switch the waveform here and already create a very different sound. And then the distortion and compressor, that's pretty self-explanatory. But if you know anything about your low end, you really want to control the dynamics of your low end so that it stays nice and consistent. So we're doing quite a bit of gain reduction here. So I get a lot of questions about how I keep 808s in mono but still have a nice stereo spread with the high-end sounds. Well, this is one way that you could do it right here inside of SubLab. They have this built-in where you can increase the stereo width. You'll notice right here in this helper section, it's telling you that it widens the sound while leaving the bass in mono. But they just had an update where it works really well with FL Studio. So if you go right here and into the options, you'll see that they have this FL Studio sequencer mode. Right now I have it turned on, but if I turn it off, just a really nasty sound. But as soon as we turn this on, now everything is tuned exactly the way that you would want it inside of the step sequencer. And switch over to note mode, change the individual notes right here inside of the step sequencer. And then another thing that they just added, if you click this sample button, now it's waiting for me to input a note to record the 808 that I just finished creating. So what I recommend is hitting middle C, wait for it to finish recording, and now you could drag this file into a folder or right into your channel rack, and now you have a brand new custom 808. And again, like I said, there's a link down below for you guys to purchase either my Inflightmuzik 2020 drum pack and or SubLab. So according to YouTube, the next video you should watch is here on your left. And if you like this video, you should definitely check out the video on your right as well. I make new videos every week, so remember to turn on notifications so that you are notified every time I drop a new video. Until then, I'll see you in the next one. Peace.